What's good, everyone? Night Cage here. So I am at the beginning of a new mini campaign, and this is going to be the beginning of the story part of the campaign, the tale of Devroth the Bloodied. This is one of the new up-and-coming Chaos Lords in the Chosen of Rah Warband of the 8th Great Company. The 8th Warband, and this warband is under the Cauldron Lord Eureka, who is just to make things simple, who is right here, right? So to explain this story, before I get into the story part, to explain to you guys what has happened, if you didn't get a chance to see the previous video, Devroth was the chaplain of a Space Marine chapter called the Emperor's Tears, and Devroth and the 4th Battle Company were off on a crusade fighting the Tyranids when everything went horribly wrong. The chapter was declared excommunicate traitors after the chapter master was caught committing a heresy, in that the chapter master took in Xenos technology and attempted to hide it away from the Inquisition and use it. The Inquisition used this against the chapter, declared the chapter excommunicate traitors after the chapter master refused to turn over the technology and caused a major chapter war. The chapter turned on itself and began a civil war within the chapter. The chief chaplain of the first company contacted the Inquisition, informed the Inquisition of the chapter master's actions. The Inquisition moved in quickly, and as the chapter war destroyed the chapter itself, the Inquisition moved in and destroyed the entire chapter fleet. When Devroth and his 4th company captain, along with the chief apothecary, arrived back into the home system, going to the fortress monastery, they found that their entire chapter had been destroyed. And when facing the Inquisitor, Devroth and the 4th company faced an inquisitorial requisition, which ended up in the destruction of the 4th company battle fleet. The Inquisition wasted no time moving in and destroying the entire 4th company battle fleet. The captain of the 4th company was killed. Devroth and the apothecary and 10 other Marines of his chapter, of his battle company, got on a Thunderhawk going towards Gorgon 5, trying to escape the destroyed fleet. The Inquisitor ordered the fleet commander to fire a single shot, hitting the tail fin of the Thunderhawk, burning the Thunderhawk in the atmosphere as it screamed down towards Gorgon 5. The Inquisitor then turned to the fleet commander. Job well done. Let's translate out of the system. And the Inquisition left. At the bottom of the altar, looking up in the sky, as the chieftain of the marauding tribes, Zophar, had done many times before, he looked up in the sky as he was in supplication praying to the god Ra, the god of war, known by the Imperium as Khorne. He saw it as a great sign. As fire and brimstone screamed down from the sky, a major explosion took place on its impact. He knew that it was a sign, and before him stood out 2 great giants. The giants were Devroth and the apothecary Zorn. The chieftain then knew that Lord Khorne had sent him a blessing, and that was Devroth's arrival on Gorgon 5. After the arrival, Devroth and his apothecary met with the chieftain. Devroth knew that he was marooned on this planet and there was no escaping. There's no technology to speak of. It's a feral world, run by marauders and barbarians. Devroth, seen as a messiah in the eyes of the marauding tribes, were taken in. He quickly became lord of the marauding tribes, then Grand High Lord of the barbarian tribes, uniting all of the barbarian tribes under his name, and soon after becoming appointed Grand High Lord of both marauding and barbarian tribes. The wars between the rival tribes were put to an end, and before long, Devroth had figured out how to take the technology of his power armor and the arcane armor of the tribes and created a new type of armor that he now adorned himself with. Taking up the religion of the tribes and uniting them under his banner, he then became the Grand High Warlord of Gargon 5. Standing before the great altar in prayer, as he had done many mornings, this morning was different. Many mornings of prayer, he saw no great benefit, but his belief in the great Lord Rah. In this morning, bared great fruit. As he stood before the altar, as it had happened with many times before, the chieftain of one of the marauding tribes approached. My lord, you have united all of the war bands of our world. What are your orders? But just then, a light shone through. The great monolith of the god Ra began to glow. Out of the monolith stepped a great demon prince. The marauders all knelt to their knees with their heads down, the chieftain himself barely able to look up into the light. The Grand High Warlord, Devroth The Bloodied, stood before the great demon prince. Eureka stepped out of the water. He said some simple words. You are to be my herald. You have prayed to me many times. I'm here to answer the call. You've done a job. The job that you've done here, uniting the tribes. You've done a job well done. The circle is now complete. You are now ready to return to space. But I have a job for you to do. I will send a squad of my chosen to you for you to lead. You will now go back into space. I have a fleet prepared for you. It is in orbit now. You will travel there. You will unite with my chosen. You will persecute a campaign on the Necron world. This world has been taken from me. I want it back. In the meantime, I will see to it that your marauders and your barbarian tribes be converted to Marines, and I will send them to join you on your crusade at a later date. For the time being, you are to travel with the champion, Ragzar, and you are to begin the campaign. That is all. Leave now. Devroth, feeling a great honor, having been given a fleet back Finally, with the opportunity to go back into space, the first thing that came into his mind was taking the head of that Inquisitor as his trophy. But he had been so connected with the marauding tribes and the barbarian tribes over the 50 years of isolation on Gargan 5, and having now united all of the tribes and claimed kingship over them all, Devroth then knew his ascension was at hand. His revenge would be seen, but he had a new job. Devroth then turned to his chieftain. You will accompany me to my new battle fleet. You do not know space. It is a cold and desolate place. It is a dangerous place. You will accompany me to my new location. You may not yet return, but your service to the Sons of Rah Warband will be needed. We leave at dusk. Welcome to mission number 1. This is the beginning of Devroth's story. Devroth, having been given back a great battle fleet from his new lord, Eureka, the Cauldron Lord of the Chosen, of Angron's Chosen. Devroth had been given a great position as Supreme Warlord over his new hordes. Many of the Marauders have been allowed to translate into the new system, new planet, Planet X52. According to the Lord Eureka, the planet had not been named. It was once a grand demon world, now a desert world, overrun and controlled by the Necrons. His job was to take it back, but there was one order of business. Eureka had explained to Devroth that his previous chosen herald, Tumar, had failed him many times. Devroth was to take control of the Berserker units, the Berserker regiment on Planet X52, but that meant putting Tumar to death. Upon his arrival on Planet X52, Devroth and his marauders, his marauding tribe, along with his chieftain, stepped out of their drop pod. The air was heavy on this planet, and the marauders had a difficult time breathing. They were not used to traveling to interstellar travel. The atmosphere here was different. Their lungs burned as they tried to take in the new air. Having not had any augmentation done to their physiology yet, and not being transformed into Marines yet, made it even harder for them to breathe and for them to look into the sun of the new binary stars in the system. But Devroth approached Tumar. Tumar stood with 2 Chaos Champions at his back and 2 squads of Khorne Berserkers standing before Devroth. Devroth approached Tumar. I am here to take command of these forces. I am here to bring Planet X52 under the control of the Lord Eureka, and I will be the supreme lord of this force from here on out. And Tumar turned to Devroth and said, no, not under my watch. I've been on this planet and ruined here for the last 3 years. My force is depleted and destroyed. The Necron force is stronger than you know. Who are you to command me? Devroth approached. Join me or die. I give no options under my command. And Tumar responded, I will not. and the battle began. Turn 1 coming up. Special rules for mission number 1. Each Lord is going to be given 5 attacks. 5 attacks each. They both have a 3-up armor save, 4-up invulnerable save. They're both going to have 1 free reroll that can be used for hitting, wounding, or for an armor save. An armor or invulnerable save. They're both going to hit on 4s and wound on 3s. Here we go. Devroth raises his great blood cleaver. He had used it many times on Gargan 5 to unite the warring tribes. This time he knew it wouldn't fail him. Needing force. And with the great arc of his axe, of his cleaver, Tumar was hit 3 times. Devroth took a final swing, but he missed, easily blocked by Tumar. The previous 3 strikes, causing 2 wounds, biting deep into Tumar's armor. Tumar bent over in pain, taking a single wound. But Tumar took up his power axe, biting the pain back, swung back, and his attack was fierce. Devroth hit 3 times in the chest. The pain was great, having been wounded twice. Tumar took to his axe, taking a final swing to cause an additional wound, biting deep, causing 3 wounds. Devroth taking a single wound. Both lords down to 3 wounds. But Devroth would not stop. He raised his great cleaver with a great arc, slamming it down. Tumar blocked 2 of the attacks, 3 of the attacks hitting home. Devroth taking a final swing, but Tumar was fast enough to parry it away. The 3 major attacks bit deep into Tumar's armor, causing 3 great wounds. Tumar dropped to his knee. Devroth then said, "Join me and end this." Tumar looked up. After failing 2 more saves, chest plate being ripped off, he decided to take his reroll. Failed. Tumar down to a single wound. Devroth still sitting at 3 wounds. Devroth with his boot on Tumar's head. "Join me now." Tumar refuses. He pushes Devroth's leg aside, takes a great swing with his axe. Weakened by the 2 previous attacks, by the wounds biting into his armor, he only hit 2 times, but only failed to wound once, hitting Devroth across the shoulder. Devroth, unable to avoid the hit, dropped down, nearly dropping his knee to the ground, but he stood his ground. He stood strong. With 2 wounds left, Devroth turns his great cleaver to the side, and in a great arc, he swung it up, swinging 4 times, smashing his cleaver into Tumar's armor. Taking 1 backswing, he swung at Tumar, but he missed. Tumar, now knocked onto his back, looking up at Devroth. He took 3 more wounds. Devroth now with his great cleaver embedded in Tumar's chest. Tumar with 1 final chance. 1 final chance to survive. But Tumar's armor failed him. The great cleaver bit into Tumar's chest, cutting him in half. With 1 final breath, Tumar raised his axe and slammed it down into Devroth's head. But he only hit once. Taking the final reroll, he still failed to hit as Devroth parried his weak attack aside. But the attack did bite deep, dropping Devroth down to a single wound. But for Tumar, it was too late. The damage had been done. The great blood cleaver cut him aside, cut him into pieces, leaving his body battered and bloody. Devroth stood before the Berserker squads, turned to the Berserker Skull Champions, and he simply said, "You are now under my watch. You will follow me, or you will follow Tumar." Is that understood? And the Berserkers simply nodded their heads and got in line. And that's the end of mission number 1. A light shone through. Yurika stepped out of the water before the warlord Devroth. Yurika laughing loudly. He stood before Devroth. "Well done, my herald. That wretched filth has felt me for the last time. Now you will claim X-52, and it will be yours to command. This will be your new homeworld, and you will be my new herald. Get on with it already." And Devroth turned to his lord Yurika. "My lord, when will my tribesmen be ready to translate into the system?" And Yurika looked down. "You have a situation here that you need to be concerned about. Concern yourself not with your tribesmen. I will have them meet you here when they are ready, and when I am ready. Get on with it." And Devroth said no more.